We're back. And one quick paragraph here from the independent engineer's report that came out today. This is a section on the North Spur. It says the independent engineer considers that the various geotechnical concerns for the North Spur have generally been satisfied by the studies described above. These studies confirm that the design, remediation, and stabilization works are adequate and that there is no significant hazard from stability, problem-related seepage, strength, losses in sensitive soils and or earthquake shaking during construction or operation of the project. The IE also agrees with the plan that further geotechnical observations will be made as the remedial works progress and as new geotechnical monitoring is performed. These observations will be calibrated against the expectations of the various analysis reports. Designs will be amended if any significant surprises or discrepancies are encountered. And with that, let me welcome to the program Mr. Ed Martin, the CEO of Nalcor. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Hi, Pete.
So this is a very positive review. Generally, I've just had an opportunity to really skim through it and read bits and pieces, but on the whole, it seems that things are progressing apace, and the independent engineer is most satisfied with most of what they've seen.
No, we've had a very, as anticipated, a very favorable report. But, as a result, Pete, of a lot of planning, a lot of organization, and I will step back and say as well, it is useful to have, someone like an independent engineer there to, walk through things with us, talk us through things. And as we've always said, these secondary checks and some cold eyes reviews, we welcome that. This big project is going well, but we like to take that kind of input when we get it.
Some concern that that some of the work was a little bit behind. Any concerns there, or do you think there's ample opportunity to catch up?
No, ample opportunity, and we see some of the work on site started a little bit slower than we would have liked. But if you think about that kind of work, Pete, pouring concrete in particular, it's the kind of work that once you get the initial base down on an uneven floor, and you're working with what you might call a true engineered surface to continue to build up the dam on, that's the kind of work that generally teams get better and better and better at as you do the form work, build up, do more form work, build up. And we've seen that in the past where the productivity will continue to improve, and we see ample room for any recovery of any time that we may have lost at this point. So still on schedule as expected.
The protective shell that's being constructed over the site is key to continuing work through the cold winter months. Is that in place? Is that going to be effective for you to continue the work and keep things on schedule?
Yeah, so that's going as planned. The key thing we need to do there is ensure that 2 of the key bays are covered in for this winter, 2 of the 4 key bays. And so our focus is on that now. Install is moving along well with respect to that, and we fully expect to have the 2 sections covered in. It'll enable us to continue during the winter months effectively, and then we'll complete the other 2 next summer and be ready to go into full production on all 4 bays in the coming winters.
The sections on the North Spur were of particular interest to an awful lot of folks who've been focused on that as a glitch, an area where there could be real problems. And there's a talk by Dr. Bernander, of course, Thursday night now at the Elspeel Hall. I plan to attend myself and see what questions arise and what I can glean from that. But this report, as I just read out, seems to be satisfied with the expertise and the plan that is in place. Do you anticipate that the people will now accept this as some confirmation that you know what you're doing and it's going to be safe, or will some people's minds be impossible to change?
Well, I can't speak for everybody. I guess what I do know is that people should hear this. An independent source, a very experienced source, has gone in and taken a look at the work we've done. And we've been very careful with this ourselves. I mean, we've done the borehole drilling. We've understood what has to be done on the North Spur for many, many years. There's been tremendous engineering studies on it. And naturally, as with any part of this project, we're being very, very prudent, very careful, very professional. And once we, came to the conclusion that the things we were doing were correct, we have a lot of confidence in that. We put a lot of effort into it, a lot of engineering effort, and, to us, it's no surprise what the independent engineer has said. Helpful, though, publicly, because hopefully some people who have had some legitimate questions, which certainly is a good thing, I think they can take some comfort and solace in the fact that an independent engineer has indicated alignment with our approach.
Now, the province has invested a considerable sum of its own money. Obviously, there's been a lot borrowed, and that'll be paid back, as it all will in time, by the ratepayers. As our revenues seem to shrink now with the oil sinking lower and lower all the time, we don't know how far it will go or how long it'll stay there. But, I mean, obviously, the investment we've made becomes more and more critical because we're likely to have, deficits and looking at cuts and perhaps tax increases, etc. So all that money is more and more important as our resources dwindle to some degree. How can you confirm for people that this was still the right way to go, that over the long term Muskrat Falls is going to be the right answer, I suppose, for our long term needs and for the generations ahead?
Well, 2 points there, Peter. The first one, with respect to the short-term fluctuations in the oil price that are occurring, they're really not having an impact on the long-term decision of Muskrat Falls, because obviously we're not in production yet. If we look out to the 2020 time frame, say, for instance, as when Muskrat Falls will be in production and Holyrood shut down, the current projections that we're being provided with now are still well within the range of what we sanctioned the project at. We're seeing a short-term dip in prices now. They're projected to go back up over time as to in the time frame when Muskrat Falls starts up. I will say is that, over the next 50 years, one thing is for certain. The oil price will be up higher than anyone expected at certain times, and it'll be down lower than anyone expected at certain times. That's the nature of the commodity business. But we make our decisions based upon long-term projections. These are big long-term projects, and one thing is clear, the price of oil is expected to continue to rise over that time frame.
But in the short term, it's fair to say that the fact that we're getting less in terms of revenue from our oil sales, it means that $2 billion that we've invested in from our cash reserves is not in our coffers now, and not there to use to, carry us through to when perhaps higher prices will be back and our cash flow will be restored, right?
Well, I look at it another way, Peter. I mean, if the money that the province is investing, the equity they're investing in this project, attached to that equity is obviously a return on equity to the province of approximately 8.5%. So what happens is we go into Muskrat Falls, as we pay our light bills, we are actually paying ourselves a substantial return on that investment instead of paying our writing a check for our light bills and paying it to an outside oil company. So not only are we investing in an asset that's going to be ours in the long term, forever, we are also paying our light bills. A portion of that is going to pay ourselves for the equity investment, and therefore we're putting the money back in our own pockets, not putting it out to oil companies in the long run. And that's going to provide an extra amount of revenue for the province to be able to use for whatever needs they see fit, whether it be healthcare, education, or whatever the province decides.
There are going to be ongoing costs, though, as well. It's not as though all of the infrastructure in place will last for the life of the dam. For instance, the Maritime Link has a life expectancy, depending on who you talk to, 35 to 50 years, not necessarily a whole lot longer than the period to pay it off and for it to become our asset. So is that something that's going to be significant in terms of the overall cost down the road when we do get to enjoy the benefits, the economic benefits of this after it's paid off? I mean, are those expenditures going to be such that they're going to sort of rule out or negate any advantage down the road?
And on the contrary, all of those costs have been factored in from the outset. So all operating costs, all financing costs, all capital costs, everything has been factored into this analysis from the get-go. And I think the best way to look at this, if you're looking longer term to future generations, for the grandchildren, this asset will be paid off in approximately 35 years. So what you're going to have then is like you bought a house, you paid a mortgage for 35 years, and as you gave that house to your children, they're basically getting a capital asset, a house with no mortgage for them to live in for the next 35 years. That's what we're having. That's the same situation we're having here. So no matter what happens over the next 35 years, this will be paid off, and the grandchildren will get an asset, much like Bay d'Espoir is now. We built Bay d'Espoir, about a 600 megawatt plant, close to 40 years ago. The price of oil at that time was about $12 to $13 per barrel in U.S. dollars. Look at where that's put us right now. Here we are 40 years later. That asset is still producing, still has a tremendous life ahead of it, and we're in a situation where that's providing us extremely low-cost energy 40 years later. Muskrat will be in a similar situation as we pay it off and head into the next generation.
Are you at all worried? I mean, there was some kind of notion from Lockheed Martin recently about a nuclear fusion setup that would be not only affordable, but could be the way of the future. They say 5 years to a prototype, 10 years possibly to a commercial unit that would be 100 megawatts per unit, and very sort of efficient and small, a small unit fit in the back of a pickup or whatever. I mean, people have always said that technology can perhaps bring us all sorts of things in the next 20 years, let alone 50 or 100, that would make something like a hydroelectric project like Muskrat Falls completely obsolete. No worries or concerns there?
Well, just think of the reason why that type of technology is even being considered. That kind of technology is being considered because most jurisdictions in the world have no hydro left. We're one of the few jurisdictions in the world with outstanding hydro projects of significant magnitude left for all the reasons we know from a political perspective. They should have been done 40 years ago. We have the big hydro. Mm-hmm. And, everyone would develop high quality hydro first. It's provided with a fuel source that will never go away, rain and clouds and weather. The river will run forever, and when you look long term, you're not going to beat a hydro plant. And the reason they are developing, as I said, new types of technology, or trying to develop new types of technologies, because most of the hydros are not available to most folks anymore. We have it.
Yeah, well, at best, I suppose it's speculation now at any point, because many would say that if anybody says something is 5 years out, then it's probably a lot longer than that, and perhaps never. But anyway, Mr. Martin, I appreciate your time today, sir. No doubt the dialogue will continue as your work progresses, but certainly anything more you have to offer at any time on upcoming reports, etc., we'd love to have you back.
All right, thanks very much.
All the best.
Bye.
Ed Martin, head of Nalcor.